Welcome to the first ever YouTube video on this channel. So basically on this channel I would be uploading videos related to O-level physics, and so without any further ado, let's start off with our first topic. So the first topic for O-levels physics is physical quantities. And so basically what are physical quantities? Physical quantities are those quantities which can be accurately measured by any instrument, for example, length, mass, time, volume, etc. Physical quantity is any quantity that can be measured accurately by any instrument. For example, length, mass, time, volume, and much more. So basically, this is the definition for physical quantities. Any quantity that can be measured accurately by any instrument, for example, length, mass, time, volume, etc. Now, physical quantities have two types. And what are those two types? Two types. And what are those two types? These are the base quantities, and the derived quantities. And the derived quantities. Now, what are base quantities and what are derived quantities? So basically, why by the word name base quantities, you can guess what are base quantities. But its actual definition is that base quantities are those quantities that cannot be further split into other quantities. Those quantities that cannot be split further into other quantities. Base quantities are those quantities that cannot be split into further quantities. This is the basic definition for base quantities. For example, you can take mass, length, time, temperature, electric current, and much more. For example, amount of substance and intensity of light. But mass, length, time, temperature are the basic ones. So the SI unit, and you need to know the SI units as well. The SI unit for mass is kg, kilograms. For length, it's meters, small n. For time, it's seconds. For temperature, it's Kelvin, not degree Celsius. For temperature, it's Kelvin. And for electric current, it's ampere. For amount of substance, it's moles. And for intensity of light, it's candela. So these are the some examples of base quantities. Moving on to the derived quantities. Now, what are derived quantities? Derived quantities are those quantities that are derived from base quantities. Now, what does that mean? Derived quantities are those quantities are those quantities that are derived from base quantities. So basically, base quantities are derived quantities are those quantities that are derived from base quantities, and one of its example could be speed, and its SI unit is equals to ms minus 1. Yeah, like you can write it as meter per second. And if you do not wish to write it this way, what you can do is that you can write it like this. If you do not want to write it this way, you can write it like this as ms minus 1. You can write it like this as well. So it isn't necessary for you to write it this way. You can write it like this. So moving on to the next thing, meter per second. You can see that speed is derived from the time and from length. Basically, we can also like for distance we can also say that a car is traveled 500 meters. So speed is like that. One thing I would like to tell you over here is that as I told you guys that this temperature is basically um, one. You can like go. You can change the units for temperature the way like 1 degree Celsius is equals to 273.15 Kelvin. If you need to change the units, like if you need to go into Kelvin from degree Celsius, then what you can simply do is that you can just add from if you want to go from degree Celsius, like degree Celsius, degree Celsius to you want to go to Kelvin, simply add 273 into degree Celsius. What do I mean by this? To go from degree Celsius to Kelvin, for example, if our temperature is 15 degrees Celsius, add 273 to that temperature and you will get the temperature in Kelvin, which is the SI unit for temperature. So basically, for example, if we take 15 plus 273, then this would be equals to 288 Kelvin. So like this, you can change the unit from degree Celsius to Kelvin. Now, moving on to the next thing, which are the prefixes. Now, what are prefixes? These are, for example, in maths you use in maths when you do standard form, you use or like when you do indices or so you do 10 square, 10 power 3, 10 power minus 3, 10 power 4, 10 power 12, 10 power minus 12. This is what you basically do in indices and standard form. So it's similar to that. Prefixes are basically the symbols put before or after a number. So basically, 10 power 3, for example, then 10 power 6, for example, then 10 power 9, for example, and then 10 power 12, for example. What does 10 power 12 mean? Basically, 10 power 12 means tera. Um, and you can like write it as a capital T. What does 10 power 9 mean? 10 power 9 means giga. And you can write it as a capital G. Now, what does 10 power 6 mean? 10 power 6 means 1 million. 1 million. And 1 million means mega. Mega. And you can write it as a capital M. And then 10 power 3 is 1000, which equals to kilo. And you can write it as a small k. Small k. Now, what are the inverse of these prefixes? For example, 10 power minus 3, 10 power minus 6, 10 power minus 9, 10 power minus 12, and 10 power minus 2 as well. What does this mean? 10 power minus 2 means centi, which is equals to C. Then it's 10 power minus 12, which is pico, and it equals, and you can write it as P. Then 10 power minus 9 is nano, and you can write it as a small n. 10 power minus 3 is milli, and you can write it as a m. Small n. Now, what is 10 power minus 6? So basically, 10 power minus 6 means micro, and you can write it as, its symbol would be this. So this is its symbol. So this was it for the prefixes. Moving on to the scalar and vector quantities. Okay, so let's do one thing. We would finish off here on prefixes, and then we could continue the scalar and vector quantities in our next video. In our next video, we can cover scalar and vector quantities, then resultant force, and then that would be it. Head to tail rule as well. Then the types of measurements. We could cover all this in our next video or in the next two videos, and then we could do some past paper questions as well, both for P2 and P1. So this was it for today's video, and the next video would be coming up tomorrow. Just a quick overview. Physical quantities are any quantity that can be measured accurately by any instrument, for example, length, mass, time, volume, etc. Physical quantities have two types: base quantities and derived quantities. Base quantities are those quantities that cannot be split further into other quantities. Just ignore the order of the words, please. And its example could be mass, length, time, temperature, electric current. And to change the units from degree Celsius to Kelvin, you can add 273 to degree Celsius. Derived quantities are those quantities that are derived from base quantities. For example, speed, meter per second is its the unit. And then prefixes: 10 power 3, 10 power 6, 10 power 9, 10 power 12, and 10 power minus 3, 10 power minus 6, 10 power minus 9, and 10 power minus 12, and 10 power minus 2 as well. So this was it for today's video. I will see you guys tomorrow, inshallah. Till next time, Allah Hafiz, and thank you for watching my video. Please do subscribe my channel.